I'm Richard Bavor. I've been a surgeon for almost 20 years. It's the only thing I've ever really wanted to do.
Mostly, I operate on cancer patients. Surgery's not pretty, but at least it offers a chance of cure. This is the sharp end of cancer. Most patients I treat ask the same question. What could I have done not to get cancer?
And I have to admit, I just don't know. I've lost friends and loved ones to cancer too, and I see the suffering it brings every day here at work.
No one's to blame for getting cancer, but we can all reduce our risk. I've decided to explore the other side of the cancer story, prevention. 1 in 3 of us will get cancer at some point in our lifetimes. What would it take to improve those odds? In this episode, we'll examine how our modern lifestyles influence our cancer risk. We'll look at the real impact of sleep and stress. We'll examine our relationship with our most popular vices and discover how the way we move can impact on our cancer odds. 40% of cancer can be prevented through lifestyle changes. I'd like to get a sense of how not to get cancer.
Imagine this pill could prevent cancer. Not only that, it has no negative side effects, only positive ones. It can improve your mood, help you sleep, manage your weight, and even help cope with stress. Would you take it? I'd certainly prescribe it. But this pill doesn't exist. There is something else I can offer you though that does have the same cancer-preventing magic. Exercise.
That daily walk, run or workout is doing much more for you than making you fit and feel good. Exercise helps prevent at least 13 different types of cancer, including the big killers, breast, bowel and lung cancer. The American Cancer Society studied 1.4 million people over 20 years, and its landmark report reveals that exercise is a major pillar of cancer prevention. So, how could it work? Exercise can help repair damaged DNA. It lowers hormone levels like estrogen, the female hormone that drives breast and womb cancer. Exercise speeds up the process of food through the bowel, so more trips to the loo, less contact with toxins. And it reduces inflammation, which drives tumour growth. However, for many of us, exercise can feel like a chore.
If you go to your average gym and look around, a bulk are punishing themselves. And to me, it's sad. They're not going to be able to sustain it. You'll fall off that wagon because it hurts and it's no fun. I often want to go up to people on the street or in the gym and say, hey, grab them by the scruff of the neck and go, hey, there's a better way of doing this. It's just that that's socially inappropriate and I wouldn't really work to do that.
No, I can see that wouldn't work out for you, Grant. But Grant, I'm starting to wonder about the way that I exercise. Is there a way of exercising that optimises cancer prevention?
Yeah, there's a level of exercising where you're not huffing and puffing. That's gentle aerobic exercise. It stimulates all the cells in the body to stop dividing and undertake a sort of cellular recycling process.
So this is the kind of optimal cancer preventative pace.
This is it, which is pretty bloody easy, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
We can slow down if we want to. We're at our maximum.
Like for someone who perhaps is a bit overweight, they'd be even going slower
Yeah, they'd be walking.
and still be getting all the benefits of exercise.
Yeah. We're giving our cells a bit of stress where they're going to actually want to tidy themselves up. We're going to elevate our mood and we're not going to be shattered, so we'll do it again.
Across pretty much all cancers, there's about a 20% reduction in getting cancer if you're fit. And I think probably the best evidence we have is for something like colorectal cancer. You're about a third less likely to get it if you're active and fit. Animals living in the wild cancer's a very small disease. And then you look at, well, any other animals that start to get cancer like us? Well, there's only two, actually. It's dogs and cats.
Oh, no.
And if those animals adopt our lifestyle and our environment, they end up just like us.
Modern life has meant most of us are now moving less and are not meeting World Health Organization guidelines for minimal activity. We choose to sit when we could stand. We drive when we could walk or cycle. And the richer you are, the worse it is. The most affluent countries have increased levels of inactivity and cancer. We're no longer the mobile animals we were designed to be. What are we evolving into? The good news is you don't have to exercise like an athlete to reduce your cancer risk. Low intensity exercise offers a protective effect, and it's less inflammatory and ultimately more sustainable. But I'm keen to know if there is still value in doing high intensity workouts.
Can you benefit from some very short, hard stuff? Absolutely. But let's do it in a way that is short, doesn't exhaust us. 5 30-second bursts, very short, sharp bursts with a good rest between. And that's it. You know, it's really only 2.5 minutes worth of work, and the workout, that's a full workout. Get those legs up, high, 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 high. Okay? Nice work. Here we go, 25, go. 3, 2. Right, well, that's the whole workout. The trick is not to do it for too long. We're designed to do this for short periods of time, 30 seconds or less.
Yeah, 2.5 minutes.
That's it.
Once a week.
Entire workout.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Can you give me a prescription that is going to be my best recipe to avoid or how not to get cancer?
So you're going to move every day in some form of exercise. Slow down, walk up the hills, have a chat with the people you're with, and then once or twice a week give it this real maximal stuff for just 5 times 30 seconds or something around that 2.5 minutes of work. Find something that you're going to enjoy and just go at it. Be a real live animal. That's my prescription.
Low intensity is different for everyone, but there is a universal formula. Take a maximum heart rate of 180 and minus your age. My optimal heart rate is 130. For me, that's a gentle run. For others, it'll be walking. Before surgery and before pharmaceuticals, doctors used to prescribe exercise. For millennia, the focus was on prevention. We know that exercise is good for us, but for many of us, it's not been enough to get us off the couch. Exercise could be the free cancer-preventing medicine for the masses. It cuts through age, fitness, health, and wealth. And for me, it really helps with stress. But can stress cause cancer?
Hello?
What is stress, and does it cause cancer? Stress is a physical response to danger. Heart rate goes up, blood pressure rises. We release adrenaline and our insulin spikes in case we have to run for our lives. It helps us cope with imminent threats. It's a defense mechanism designed for survival. It just doesn't feel that way.
Stress feels like it's kind of, you're not quite in control. It feels like you're sort of scrambling for some degree of order. It feels unhealthy and it's deeply unpleasant. When I'm called into the hospital in the middle of the night, it's usually because there's something bad. Someone is dying.
Often stress can feel life or death, but can it cause cancer?
No, there's not a lot of evidence for it, but it's a common myth. When bad things happen, people like to look for reasons why they occurred. In the past, we blamed bad spirits or people putting hex on us. We all have stressful events in our lives, and when we do get sick, it's very easy to link those two things together. But careful studies don't really support the fact that stress is the predominant factor in cancer.
But it can cause behaviours that cause cancer.
It's true. I mean, one of the things that happens when we're under stress is that we engage in unhealthy behaviours. So we'll drink more, we tend to smoke more if we smoke, we don't go and see our friends as much and don't get as much social support. We'll have less time to exercise and take care of ourselves. Our sleep will be affected, and we're much more likely to eat a poor diet as well.
So resilience to stress is important because it helps us avoid those other not so helpful behaviours that perhaps increase our risk of cancer.
Yeah.
There are many myths around cancer causes. Deodorant and underwire bras will not give you cancer. And it turns out that stress is another modern myth. Though it is important to recognise how stress can drive us towards a toxic lifestyle. It's crucial to learn how to control stress, and there's nothing better than a good night's sleep. Every living creature on Earth has a sleep cycle. It's called a circadian rhythm, and this body clock controls when we wake and when we sleep. During that time, our bodies are performing crucial cancer-preventing work, which can be a problem for night owls.
Absolutely loved working night shift, especially here in Dunedin. The students here are so much fun. They're loud and they're boisterous and they're vibrant, and it's just fantastic. You go home at night, your face would hurt because you've been laughing so much. It was the best. I loved it.
Rhonda worked night shift as a taxi driver in Dunedin for 5 years, until she discovered she had breast cancer.
When did you first notice that you weren't well?
I found a lump, and I thought that wasn't normal. I went to the doctor and I was in surgery within a fortnight. I proceeded to chemotherapy, and then I had radiotherapy.
Shift work is classed as a probable carcinogen, and it's worse for women because the risk is for breast cancer. Scientists think the cause is linked to the disruption of the circadian rhythm.
Shift work is a big challenge. You're working when your brain is actually set up to sleep, and then you're trying to sleep when your brain is set up for wakefulness. There is a lot of evidence now from big longitudinal studies that people who do rotating shift work are more likely, particularly women, are more likely to get breast cancer. And the increased risk looks to be about 19%, and it gets worse the longer you're doing the rotating shift work.
How could disrupted sleep or shift work cause cancer?
You're getting light at night. Our body clock in the brain is sensitive to blue light particularly.
So that's a particular problem in modern life, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Is screen time from laptops, tablets and phones, which are right in your face, and it's the blue light from those devices that is the problem?
Yeah. It's stopping your body producing melatonin. We know that melatonin actually suppresses tumour growth. So if you don't make enough melatonin over a long period of time, maybe that is one of the things that either enables or accelerates the growth of breast cancer tissue.
Our bodies make cancer cells all the time, but our defence mechanisms are very good at killing them off. Melatonin is known as the hormone of darkness. Switched on at night, it can block the growth of cancer cells. If we switch it off, these cancer cells can multiply and form tumours.
What can we all take from that about how not to get cancer?
I think the essential thing is to remember to keep your body clock synchronised. And so that is regular sleep times and regular meal times, being conscious of the fact that we have this beautiful, intricate timing system that we need to respect and keep as much as we can functioning in the way it's designed to function.
Rhonda's cancer has been in remission for 3 years. She drives mostly day shift now, but she misses the nights.
I love it. The city's so calm and so peaceful. It's so black here and the stars are so bright. And then you'll notice one house light flick on and you'll see a jogger out with their dog and the city just starts waking up. It's a beautiful thing.
Rhonda's just one of millions of people employed in shift work worldwide, and the numbers are going up. Shift work is fast becoming a problem of our modern lifestyles. Night workers have increased health risks such as obesity, diabetes, and heart disease. They are more likely to have an unhealthy diet and more likely to smoke. It's ironic that one of the most common places to spot a smoker these days is outside the hospital. But more and more I've noticed people using e-cigarettes. Is vaping the new smoking? And can it cause cancer?
For people who smoke, vaping is far and away a much, much safer thing to do than to smoke cigarettes. And personally, I support it. Tobacco, when it's smoked, that's an addictive poison. And what we realised quite a while back was that most of the addiction in smoking is from nicotine, but most of the poison in smoking is from the smoke itself.
Vaping, it actually offers that availability of nicotine, which is what smokers want, without the health harm that's associated with it.
You know, we still got to be sensible. I think it's appropriate to have an eye on, you know, proper sort of standards of products. People are, you know, inhaling stuff, so it's still correct that as a society we have an eye on the ingredients that go into the e-liquids, they're called. Yeah, we can do that. It's not a fixed technology, it's not a static technology.
No.
It's actually got what's called a product improvement pathway. In contrast to smoking, there is not a way to make a smoked cigarette more safe.
It doesn't take much of an online search to get the impression the world is full of exploding vapes and poisonous gases and teenagers being gatewayed into cigarette smoking.
As a society, we should be cautious, but vaping could offer smokers a way to give up. Smoking is still the leading preventable cause of cancer, and it often goes hand in hand with drinking. What is risk, and how do we assess danger when it comes to cancer? When I bike to work, the risk is right in front of me, and I can choose to change course to avoid it. Cancers can take a lifetime to grow. So while your lifestyle may have you on course for a head-on collision with cancer down the road, most of us can't look that far ahead. One of our most dangerous lifestyle pursuits is drinking alcohol.
Oscar 10 responding.
I'm out with the ambulance team tonight and we're responding to alcohol incidents.
New Zealand has a drinking problem. Almost a quarter of the drinking population are hazardous drinkers.
Can we have a vomit bag? And then we'll just flip over onto this side, eh?
And a quarter of weekend hospital emergency admissions are alcohol related.
Well, we're in the ambulance. We're heading off to hospital, okay? You've had a bit too much to drink.
Younger people seem to go out really late these days, don't they?
Yeah, and tend to preload a lot more. It's expensive drinking in town. Sit down here. That's it. Okay. And what have you had to drink tonight? Everything.
Oh, watch out, watch out. Here you go. My leeches.
Okay.
Binge drinking, domestic violence, physical assaults, car crashes. That's the way that we think about injury from alcohol. Can you open your mouth as wide as you can for me? But how often do we think of the more boring suburban version of alcohol injury? Barbecues, long lunches, work drinks,
Alcohol certainly causes hangovers, but it also causes cancer.
Globally, the cancer statistics are not great if you're one of the world's 2 billion drinkers. Daily consumption of a pint of beer or a large glass of wine increases the risk of liver cancer by 20% and bowel cancer by 18%. I'm fine with being 30,000 feet in the air, but long-haul flights make me think of other risks. Have we normalised drinking to the point where we're anaesthetised to the harm it's doing? When it comes to cancer risk, I'd like to know if there's a difference between the weekend binge drinker versus the daily moderate drinker. So I'm heading to Cancer Research UK, which is on the cutting edge of alcohol research. So far, its studies have confirmed that alcohol can cause 7 different cancers.
How does alcohol cause cancer?
So firstly, when we drink alcohol, it gets broken down into a toxic chemical called acetaldehyde, and it's really nasty stuff. It can damage our DNA and it can stop our cells from repairing themselves. Secondly, it can increase the level of hormones in your body. So that's what we think is happening with breast cancer. And thirdly, alcohol can kind of give other cancer-causing chemicals a bit of a helping hand and make the cells in the mouth and throat more likely to absorb those chemicals. So if you're smoking and you're drinking as well, all of the nasties that are coming out of that cigarette are getting into your body just that much easier if you're drinking.
I know quite a lot of people probably that would like to think that red wine is good for you. Is there any evidence that suggests one type of alcohol is better or worse than another?
Unfortunately not. In fact, no type of alcohol is better or worse for your health. It's just the amount of alcohol that you're consuming.
So if the risk is around the cumulative dose, there's no difference between the ladies who lunch and the lads who binge?
Well, for cancer, if they add up to the same amount of alcohol over the week, no, there's no difference between the two. I think people find that hard to believe in terms of how maybe drinking alcohol makes them feel in the short term. So you might be able to have a couple of drinks every day and end up drinking the same amount, but maybe you don't have as much of a hangover, or you feel fine and you can go about what you're doing. But for cancer, it doesn't work like that. You can't feel the alcohol kind of having that effect on you.
The silent damage to DNA builds up over a lifetime, meaning every drink you've ever had adds to your cumulative risk. And unfortunately, there's no way to undo the damage. However, even cutting back a little can have a big impact on your cancer risk over time. To get a bit more perspective on what increased risk really means, I'm off to meet Sir David Spiegelhalter, who is a professor of risk at Cambridge University. He's going to help me crunch the numbers to get to grips with the real dangers of a pint of lager.
We've got to distinguish between what sounds frightening and what is actually dangerous. And we're not very geared up to doing that, because as humans we respond to what we find frightening, especially the word cancer, for example, something idea that might cause cancer, then it evokes an emotional response in us, a very negative response in us. But we really have to try to put things in perspective.
Some of the strongest evidence around alcohol increasing the risk of cancer is around breast cancer. And one of the figures that comes out is that if you drink, the average amount of alcohol that people drink, that will put up your risk of breast cancer by 5%. What does that mean?
Okay, let's put that in perspective. Let's say very roughly about 10% of women will get breast cancer. Now, what we're looking at an extra 5% over that baseline 10%. What that actually means that if you've got 200 women, you would expect around 20 to get breast cancer during their lifetime. Now, that 20 will go up by 5%, which is a 20th. It'll go from 20 to 21. So imagine 200 women, every one of them would have to have an extra drink every single day of their lives to get one extra case of breast cancer. That's what the official data says. Now, when you tell it in that story, you get a very different emotional response to, I think, the issue. People might think, well, you know, I get a lot of pleasure from having a glass of wine every day. You know, it's really relaxing, it really improves my life. They might just consider, yeah, the risk is worthwhile.
You can't live life without some degree of risk.
Yeah, well, the greatest risk of all is because we're all going to die. And as humans, we do work with that very well indeed. The fact that not only are we going to die, but we don't know when we're going to die.
What do you do personally to avoid cancer?
Years. A bit late. I've got cancer. I got prostate cancer. I got found it a couple of years ago. It's been treated. And so now what I try to do is try to help myself prevent it come back again.
Has it changed the way you drink?
No, I try not to drink too much, but I enjoy having a drink.
The only way to avoid risk completely is to be dead. I prefer life, so I'm cautious about risk. There's plenty of risk-taking going on around me. People stepping out onto the street to take selfies, punting on the river, smoking a cigarette, drinking, biking. You have to take risks to live. But also to live, you have to minimise your risk. It's a tricky one. Does coffee kill or cure? Like me, you've probably heard endless stories about whether it's good or bad for you. We drink about 2 billion cups of coffee across the world every day. I drink about 3 of those before noon. I'd like to know, does a coffee a day keep the doctor away?
Dr. Mark Gunter heads up the largest study ever done on coffee and cancer. He's the lead investigator on the EPIC study for the International Agency for Research on Cancer. It's examined the coffee drinking habits of more than 500,000 people over the last 20 years.
There's absolutely no evidence that coffee drinking causes cancer. There is fairly convincing evidence from different large-scale studies from around the world that people who drink coffee, they have a lower risk of developing liver cancer. And also women who drink coffee, they seem to have a lower risk of developing endometrial cancer or cancer of the womb.
How could coffee protect against liver cancer?
Coffee drinkers tend to have lower levels of inflammation, more normal insulin levels, and also a kind of healthier liver enzyme profile. So all these things might suggest that coffee is having a beneficial effect on some of these pathways, which we know are linked to liver cancer.
What about endometrial cancer?
Well, endometrial cancer is a cancer which has a strong association with obesity, as well as with insulin and estrogen. And one observation is that coffee drinkers tend to have more normal levels of insulin and estrogen.
How many coffees should I drink a day to have an optimal effect on cancer prevention?
I think probably a couple of cups of coffee a day. At least in our data seem to be showing a potential protective effect.
Nice. I'm very relieved to hear that. Cheers.
Coffee is already known to improve memory, boost mood and relieve tiredness. And now it looks like coffee could add cancer prevention to its hero list of health benefits. I'm pleased to know my coffee habit is an indulgence that I can keep. Research on the cancer risk of mobile phones, however, is much more contentious. The smartphone has had a huge impact on our lifestyle over the last decade, and many of us now feel lost without it. The World Health Organization has classified mobile phones as a possible carcinogen. There are an estimated 5 billion mobile phone users on the planet, and use is growing every day. The sun certainly causes cancer, as do X-rays and nuclear radiation, because this type of energy damages DNA. But mobile phones emit a low-level electromagnetic field, or EMF, like Wi-Fi, cordless phones, baby monitors, microwave ovens, and airport scanners. EMF can't damage DNA, but at close range it's absorbed by the body and heats up tissue. There are plenty of studies, but so far there is no conclusive evidence that this causes cancer in humans. The French use the precautionary principle, which means that if a thing could harm our health, they act to limit it.
The French believe that there is enough evidence to suggest a risk, so they issue warnings around children's cell phone use, and they've banned Wi-Fi in daycare centres.
In the old days, people had cameras. Now everyone has a cell phone.
Dr. Annie Sasko is an epidemiologist who worked for the International Agency for Research on Cancer for 22 years.
Exposure conditions have changed drastically in the past 10 years. Nowadays, the vast majority of the population is using cell phones and use it for a much longer period of time during the day. So there are applications which are running even when you're not using it, which means that the phone, even when you have it in your pocket and are not doing anything with it, still emits and receives EMF.
So that means that we can't control our own exposure.
Well, you can control part of it because you can decide not to have a cell phone, or you will be the strange one, but nevertheless, that's possible. Otherwise, you have to keep it as far away of your body as you can, because fortunately, the exposure diminishes quite rapidly with distance. But you should not keep the cell phone directly on your body. Distance is your best friend when using a cell phone. As is usual with carcinogens, in general, the people who seem to be the most sensitive are the young people.
What is it about children that makes them particularly sensitive?
In children, the cells are replicating very fast, and that if something gets wrong in the replication of the cells, then the likelihood of getting a cancer is much higher. The kid has a skull which is much thinner than an adult, therefore less protective of the brain.
Prevention is better than cure?
Yes.
Right?
Prevention is much better than cure, yeah.
I quite like the French precautionary principle. It means we shouldn't take risks when the dangers are uncertain. We don't really know whether cell phones cause cancer.
But with billions of people using mobile devices, I'm keen to get a second opinion. I've arranged to talk with Martin Gledhill, who's an expert advisor on EMF emissions to both the New Zealand Government and the World Health Organisation. We meet out in the suburbs of Auckland, where Martin's monitoring radiation emissions coming from cell phone towers.
What's our exposure here?
Okay, well, as we've been walking here, the exposure has gone up gradually. Yeah. So it's about 10 times higher here than it was down the road.
Because we're right in line with that.
Yeah, we're in line with one of the antennas.
Yeah. Is this a dangerous level of exposure?
No, this is very low. If you decided to stand here forever, you'd do far better to worry about protection from the sun.
So why have we got this sign here that says RF exposure area, do not climb the structure?
Yeah, if you do get right up to the antennas, which are at the very top, then you might actually get exposures which are sort of beyond the limit that's recommended for the public.
What we've seen from the readings that we've taken around the suburb today is that there is RF radiation around, very low level, very low energy, very low exposure.
Yeah. You're probably going to get higher exposures off a mobile phone because although it's a weaker transmitter, you hold it much closer to your head. But typically they're 50 to 100 times lower than what you used to get from mobile phones 10 or 15 years ago.
So this is my phone, and it also says that I should keep it more than 5 millimetres away from my body. That's worrisome, isn't it? That under the legal section of the phone, they've got RF exposure and don't hold it close to your head. I mean, you have to use the phone, don't I?
Yep.
And don't put it in your pocket, you know. Really? Is that
Yeah, here, for example, they're saying that they did the test with it 5 millimetres away from the body, and to be absolutely certain of compliance, you should keep that distance. In practice, it's highly unlikely that you would ever be overexposed, even with it in your pocket.
My assessment of the cancer risk of phones is that maybe there is a tiny amount of risk, which is very hard to measure, but there are about 100 other things that we should be more worried about than a cancer risk from phones.
I think that's a pretty fair assessment.
I'm not panicking about mobile phone danger, but I am going to try and spend less time talking on my phone. And maybe, once in a while, I may even turn it off. But it does improve my life in a lot of ways too. At the moment, I'm using it to track my exercise. 3 months ago, Professor Grant Schofield gave me an exercise prescription that he believed would increase my fitness and reduce my overall cancer risk. All I had to do was slow down. Low-intensity exercise leads to less inflammation and is more sustainable in the long run. I'm curious to see if this new program has had any measurable effect on my fitness. So today, I'm going to find out if anything's changed.
We're going to take you into our lab, we're going to put you on the treadmill, we're going to rig you up with the online gas analysis, and we're going to get a very accurate measure of your cardiorespiratory fitness.
138, 144.
Again.
158, 159. Okay, come on.
That's it, push it, push it.
172, come on. 179, come on. 181. Okay. Stop when you want to.
There it is.
182 we got.
Nice work.
I think there's an astonishing change in your cardiorespiratory fitness. So you're about 40% faster.
That's crazy.
You would have actually lapped the previous Richard.
And it feels like I've been doing less exercise.
But importantly, you've been putting yourself in a situation where you're stressing the system enough, but you're allowing it to recover. And it's that constant cycling between a little bit of stress and recovery that exercise provides the benefits for.
Do you think it's affected my cancer risk?
Oh, absolutely. So not only do we know that being high in cardiorespiratory fitness, which you now are, is protective for cancer, it's also protective for all-cause mortality, so dying of anything, that's a good thing. And much more interesting, I think, is the internal environment that would have improved massively, which as far as the formation and maintenance of tumours and cancers is nothing but fantastic news.
Cancer diagnosis can be a journey, not a life sentence. In developed countries, over 60% of patients can expect to survive when diagnosed with the common cancers: breast, prostate, bowel and melanoma. So for survivors like Robin, life becomes a question of how not to get cancer again. In the past, doctors would advise patients to rest up and avoid activity. New research indicates that this is wrong. Exercise not only helps recovery, but will also reduce the risk of cancer recurring.
Robin, what have you been doing to stop your cancer from coming back?
I do yoga, I swim, deep water running, which I find fabulous. I've had stiff joints, and so anything that helps ease my joints. I walk a lot. I've got a dog that needs a lot of walking.
Your joint problems are a side effect of chemotherapy, are they? Were you okay beforehand?
I was fine beforehand, yes.
So it's possibly why you do kind of this lower intensity exercise?
Yes. My prognosis is still the 93% 10-year survival, but I think that's being improved upon with the exercise.
Do you have contact with other women who've had breast cancer?
Yes. The Breast Cancer Foundation run fabulous programs like the stand-up paddleboarding.
Yeah, my mum's
really good.
in a dragon boat crew.
Yes.
She had, I think, a very similar breast cancer to
Yes.
you, and she's been in that crew ever since,
Yes.
right? Every single one of those women on that boat has had breast cancer, including my mum. When my mum, Yana, got breast cancer, it really rocked me. But she got through it, and for the past 14 years, she's been actively involved in dragon boating. It's taken her all over the world. She's made some great friends, and her cancer hasn't come back.
Survive!
When you first got breast cancer, that was pretty frightening for me. How was it for you?
Oh, it was very frightening. I was thinking about it all the time. Why me? Because it wasn't in our family.
That depression and anxiety after having treatment for breast cancer, what did you do that did help?
One of my friends suggested dragon boating. I wasn't very keen. I said, no, I can't do that. Person from a landlocked country going on a sea on a boat. But yes, I went for first training, and since then I actually got hooked, and it's 14 years now. 14 years since your diagnosis of cancer. How does that feel? Oh, it feels fantastic that I'm still alive and healthy.
I've always known exercise is good for us, but the surprise for me is that low-intensity exercise has such a powerful effect on cancer risk, which means it's achievable for everyone. I've decided to start prescribing exercise to patients in my own clinic.
Elena, so do you do exercise?
Yeah, I do. I'm not a 6 o'clock crack of dawn going for a run type of person, but I live a really active life
Why not?
now.
You've got a tumour here that has a propensity to develop into cancer, and I think that exercise will have a positive impact on that. I think that you should increase the amount that you exercise, and the intensity of that exercise doesn't have to be great. Like even just walking on the flat, enough to put your respiratory rate up a little bit, put your heart rate up a little bit.
I don't think a lot of people out there realise that doing more exercise would help reduce the cancer.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
We are human animals. Evolution has hardwired us to react to immediate danger, not the long-term risk of cancer. It's hard to perceive our everyday lifestyles have such long-term impacts. I don't believe we need to rewrite our ways of living, but knowing what the risks are means that we can make more informed choices. Time is our friend when it comes to lifestyle choices. Small steps every day can add up to a marathon, and for cancer prevention, that's a lifetime win.